Very much a child and product of the early 60s. It seemed to me to be terribly exciting and maybe kind of glamorous to be a commercial artist. That's what I kind of thought I wanted to do when I was 12. I thought it must be, because I was impressed with things like the father in Dennis the Menace, who had those check jackets and the big glasses on, and the crew cut. That was a very hip look then, you know, to anybody in Britain. I don't think it was in America. But at the time I thought, that's Madison Avenue, you know, that's advertising, that's the place to be.
Fundamentally, our business, and I think the business of every other model provider, is going to look like selling tokens.
I guess it's all about communication in some ways. How do you communicate those deepermost feelings that are probably fairly hard to articulate?
They may work super hard, you know, spend tens of millions, hundreds of millions, someday billions of dollars on a single problem that's really valuable.
Things get very symbolic representationally. If you live through the twilight hours and the early hours of the morning, there's a shadow to your life all the time. Psychologically, you're in the dark as well as physically in the dark. And it's something that I find very uplifting and optimistic and creative about working and being very much in the daylight.
But we see a future where intelligence is a utility, like electricity or water.
Some of it's music and some of it's visual. And the two have always been very entwined.
But we see a future where intelligence is a utility, like electricity or water, and people buy it from us on a meter and use it for whatever they want to use it for.
If I found myself in some kind of cul-de-sac in the music, I'd break down the problem by actually painting it. I'd try and visualize what the problem was, that the sense of these textures were grating against each other in a way that wasn't admirable. And I try and visualize those textures and paint them and then find out what was wrong. And then when I'd solve that problem, I'd take it back into the studio. I've never really compartmentalized things. Everything for me is just this flux of doing stuff.
You know, they may come from bigger or smaller models, which makes them more or less expensive. They may use more or less reasoning, which also makes them more or less expensive. They may be running all the time in the background trying to help you out. They may run only when you need them if you want to pay less.
I wish I could be altruistic and say, no, it's just for the moment. But I would like to feel, especially in music, I would love to feel that what I did actually changed the fabric of music. And I think I've been very fortunate that I've actually seen it happen within my lifetime. I mean, I've seen music, modern music, change so dramatically over the last 25 years. And I've got a fairly shrewd idea of how much, say, myself and Brian Eno had to do with changing aspects of it, you know. And I'm sure many people from my generation, because it's such a fast event horizon in popular music, many of us have been able to see the changes that we've made, from the Stones to name anybody you would want to, really. And so that's pretty satisfying, you know, because we've seen it happen.
The demand that we see for that seems like it's going to continue to just go like this. And if we don't have enough, we either can't sell it, or the price gets really high and it, you know, kind of goes to rich people, or society makes a bunch of sort of central planning decisions that I think almost always go badly about, you know, we're going to use our limited compute supply for this and not that.
And if the other thing I would say is that if you feel safe in the area that you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting.
So the best thing to me throughout all the history of capitalism, innovation, whatever you want, is to just flood the market.
Yes, never play to the gallery. I think, but you never learn that until much later on, I think. But never work for other people at what you do. Always always remember that the reason that you initially started working was that there was something inside yourself that you felt that if you could manifest it in some way, you would understand more about yourself and how you coexist with the rest of society. And I think it's terribly dangerous for an artist to fulfill other people's expectations. I think they generally produce their worst work when they do that.